Does your family help you become a strong individual with your own voice and autonomy, or does it keep you in a web of dependencies that prevents you from fully flourishing? This is one of the most challenging and liberating questions we can face, and it leads us to the essence of Murray Bowen's thought, the revolutionary psychiatrist who created family systems theory. Bowen bequeathed us a fundamental truth that echoes in every home. The more differentiated an individual, the more he can connect with others without losing himself. This phrase is not just a guideline for individual mental health, it's a map for more authentic, deep, and entanglement-free family relationships, where each person's individuality strengthens the whole instead of threatening it. To understand the depth of this statement, we need to delve into the central concept of Bowen's theory: differentiation of self. Differentiation is not synonymous with isolation or cutting ties with family. On the contrary, it's the ability of an individual to maintain their sense of identity, their own thoughts, values, and emotions, even when under emotional pressure from their family system. It's the ability to separate intellect from emotion, to think for oneself, to form one's own convictions without being swept away by collective anxiety or the need for conformity. A differentiated person can have different opinions from their parents, siblings, or spouse, and still maintain a loving and respectful connection, without feeling threatened or needing to convince the other. They know who they are, what they think, and what they feel, and are able to communicate this clearly, without excessive emotional reactivity. In contrast, we have fusion, or undifferentiation of self. People with a low level of differentiation tend towards an emotional glue, where the boundaries between I and we are tenuous. They react intensely to the emotions of others, have difficulty thinking independently under stress, and often blindly conform to family expectations, or paradoxically, reactively rebel just to prove a point without true self-direction. Their identity and well-being are excessively tied to the approval and emotional state of other family members. It is precisely at this point that the second part of Bowen's phrase becomes so powerful: the more he can connect with others without losing himself. A person with a high level of differentiation is capable of building healthier and more authentic relationships. The impact of high differentiation is vast and profoundly beneficial. Healthy relationships. Differentiated individuals can form deep and genuine bonds of intimacy without the anxiety of being swallowed or suffocated. They can give and receive love without demanding that the other fill their voids or completely adapt to their expectations. They can openly disagree without threatening the bond, as their identity is not at stake. Emotional resilience. They have a greater capacity to deal with stress, frustrations, criticism, and life's challenges. They are not easily swayed by others' opinions or the emotional fluctuations of the environment. Clear and objective thinking. They can think rationally and make decisions based on their values and principles, even when emotions are running high or when there is pressure to follow the majority opinion. Strong sense of self. They have clarity about their own values, beliefs, boundaries, and needs. This self-awareness serves as an internal compass, guiding their choices and behaviors. Greater adaptability. They can navigate life transitions, marriage, parenthood, career changes, losses, with more flexibility, as their identity is not rigidly tied to a single role or structure. In contrast, the impact of low differentiation, fusion on the individual and the family system is often a source of profound suffering, anxiety, and chronic stress. Living in fusion generates constant anxiety. There is an internal pressure to conform, a paralyzing fear of rejection or abandonment, and intense emotional reactivity to the actions of others. Relationship problems. Fusion is the root of many marital and family problems. It can manifest as codependency, where one's identity depends on the other's, chronic conflicts, where individuality cannot be expressed without a fight, or, paradoxically, as emotional distance, where intimacy is avoided for fear of total fusion. Symptoms in children. Children in families with low parental differentiation often absorb the unresolved anxiety of their parents. This can manifest in behavioral symptoms, aggression, rebellion, physical health problems, psychosomatic illnesses, or emotional problems, anxiety, depression, that are in fact a reflection of the family dynamic. Limited autonomy. Individuals with low differentiation have difficulty making independent decisions, feel guilty when trying to emotionally separate from their family of origin, which can lead to harbored resentment or constant rebellion that ironically still keeps them tied to reacting to the system. Triangulation. One of the most common mechanisms in fused families. When two members of a family system, e.g. parents, are in conflict or high tension, they may pull a third, a child, a relative, into the middle of their dynamic to diffuse the tension. The focus of anxiety shifts to the third party, temporarily relieving the problem of the original two, but perpetuating the dysfunction and overloading the third. The family's role in differentiation is crucial. From childhood, parents can foster or hinder the process. Parents who encourage independent thinking, who allow children to have their own opinions, even if different, who validate their feelings, and who manage their own anxiety without projecting it onto their children, are fostering differentiation. On the other hand, overprotective parents, overly critical parents, those who use guilt or demand absolute conformity, can hinder this process, keeping children in a state of fusion. True parenting is not about creating a clone of oneself, but about nurturing a unique being. The journey of differentiation is a continuous and often challenging lifelong process. It requires a high degree of self-awareness, the ability to observe one's own emotional and thought patterns. It requires emotional regulation, learning not to react impulsively, but to respond consciously. And above all, it requires courage. The courage to be different, to face the anxiety that can arise when the family tries to pull back into fusion, and the courage to take responsibility for one's own life. Although challenging, the investment in differentiation brings immeasurable rewards, both for the individual and for the family system as a whole. Bowen's family systems therapy focuses precisely on helping individuals increase their level of differentiation within the context of their families of origin, believing that change in one member can positively affect the entire system. In conclusion, Murray Bowen's powerful statement is a beacon for autonomy and authenticity in relationships. Differentiation of self is not an act of selfishness, but an act of love. Love for oneself, which allows the construction of a strong and resilient identity, and love for others, which allows true and deep connections free from the weight of dependence and emotional reactivity. By seeking differentiation, you not only free yourself from inherited emotional patterns, but also become an agent of transformation, building a legacy of strong, connected, and authentic individuals for future generations. It is the art of being yourself, fully, within and outside the embrace of the family. Did you like what you heard? Leave your like, share with those who need this reflection,